music a lot and like what type of music is inspiring the look and the piece and the fashion that goes along with the music. Yeah, I just really liked the idea of like taking something that's not usually worn and making it wearable. So that's where metal came into play.
It's almost like your designs were what they used when they costumed Sin City. That's what I think of.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie is really cool. I like it. I was gonna say I like the way it's shot.
Oh yeah. I mean, just the everything's black and white and chiaroscuro except for red because red always pops.
Yeah, for sure.
So, how long have you been making designs? Like, I mean, I imagine that you didn't very first start off getting into the designs that you make now.
No, so I basically Mode Brutale has only been around since December 2021. I've been working with metal for over 20 years.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, and I mean not just working with metal, but making wearable metal out, attire. But it was started off with more sculptural fashion. So more like things that, that you would see in like a gallery setting. So I started out making like kind of like almost like medical devices that were worn on the body that kind of referenced like plastic surgery and like, beautification procedures and
Right.
fashion and that kind of thing. Yeah, so I started off doing those, and that was, like I said, more in a gallery setting. And then I switched to kind of doing more, um, I don't know, I don't want to say fashion, but I did more things like that were incorporated in like fashion shows. So they were more like still like wearable sculpture, but fashion shows. But this is my first time of doing more ready to wear, accessible, comfortable pieces. I don't want
Well,
to say practical because that's not necessarily the right word, but
well, honestly, it really depends on the situation because I've seen quite a few pieces of yours that are rather practical.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's
uh,
what I mean. Like, I think they are practical. Like, I've been making Mode Brutale to where I feel like people could wear them anywhere, like to a club, to the grocery store, can be casual. And it's a kind of a range of items so that it's not, because before that, I think I was making things that were not really something that the everyday person would wear
mhm.
or be more difficult to wear. But now I think, I've found like a good, like happy medium, if you will.
One thing that I really like about your designs is you have certain things that can either be, like you said, casual. You have certain things that are perfect for any sort of BDSM scenario, and then you have things that blend both of them perfectly if you just want some really cool fashion. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I can tell that there's just multiple different inspirations coming from different places when you moved away from the more, I suppose, like you said, uh, Victorian beautification clothing, for lack of better words.
well, no, they weren't Victorian looking at all, though. They were more like medical machine looking,
Okay,
kind
so
of fetish inspired as well, though.
what's
Um,
what inspired?
Kind of fetish inspired as well,
Okay,
though, I would
okay,
say. Just about kind of like the things that, we go through to, strive to find perfection. But it was just more of like so I feel like my pieces kind of have like some of that same like aesthetics, like
mm-hmm.
some of them. I mean, they're definitely more fashion for oriented and subculture inspired now, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, your designs are totally amazing. I love them.
Thank
Um,
you. I appreciate it.
yeah, getting into metal, that has to not be an easy medium to be what you choose to make your art with, you know? I mean, there's one thing to do brush and oil and
Yeah.
canvas, but to take and bend and shape metal to make your art, I mean, there's a certain level of tenacity that's involved in that. What made you choose that as your medium?
So, okay, so this is how it started. It started out like with me being like a painter, like a fine artist. And then I really wanted to do fashion design. So I started out as a fashion major, and then I really just didn't like how I just am not into sewing. I'm not into fabric. I really wanted to push the envelope. So I switched back to fine art. And I really was interested in the idea of maybe unusual materials and non-conventional materials being worn. And so, I mean, I guess that's another thing that's important for me to talk about because besides just metal, I use other industrial materials like rubbers and plastics. So it's all like non-conventional, but then it also has some jewelry elements to it too, of course. But yeah, I just really liked the idea of like taking something that's not usually worn and making it wearable. So that's where metal came into play. And I remember I had a professor who was like, you should just paint these ideas that you have because you've never even used a drill before. And like, and that was true. I had no idea how to do any of these things. And but I was determined to learn, and I took like a lot of like sculpture and jewelry classes and things. And yeah, and then it is difficult and challenging to work with, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
What's the one thing that you found in common between the sculpture and the jewelry and everything that goes into making metal?
Well, I mean, the similar techniques, like I use a lot of cold connecting, and I have to cut the metal, file it, sand it, drill, there's a lot of similar things between sculpture and jewelry. I will say that interesting that taking fashion for a year that I did, I learned a lot about pattern making, and I definitely use that in making all the things that I do. However, it is different than fabric. It's less forgiving. So you have to think about how things form on the body and how things, are different than fabric is, light, bendable, soft,
Mm-hmm.
where metal or other materials are more rigid. So the way that I create patterns have to be a certain way and to make it work for the curves of the body.
Is there a certain kind of metal, like, imagine that you finds the most malleable for creating, honest to God, conformed shapes?
Well, I usually use aluminum, honestly,
Yeah.
because it doesn't rust and it's like a beautiful sheen. And it's very malleable. But I've also used I've used brass and copper, nickel. I've used stainless steel and steel. Stainless, unless it's really thin, is so hard to work with. It's very like hard to bend, and I like the fact that like aluminum is, you know, long lasting and strong, but able to be worked with really easily.
It's really deceiving because your designs look like, they're just like these super thick steel plates, but it's aluminum and it's brilliant.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're the, it's not like much different when you think about aluminum and stainless, like as far as the thickness of the metal,
Mm-hmm.
it's more like the properties, how they bend and work, I guess. If that's the best way to put it. It's the same, like if I guess they're not like thin like aluminum foil or anything.
Right,
It's thicker
right.
than, yeah.
Yeah, like a sheet.
It's sheet metal,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, exactly. So I take it you have your own kind of like workshop set up, grinding machines and all?
Um, I file everything by hand because the things I make
Wow.
are delicate, and so I use jewelry techniques, like that, like filing and sanding. So I don't use like a grinding machine.
Oh, wow, that's
Because it would,
amazing.
but I have a workshop. It's in my sunroom in my house. So I work out of home. And yeah, I have all my tools and things in there, and that's where the magic happens.
That's amazing, as you get to understand your art more and more. And like I said, the visual of it, like I said, I always kind of mix it with that sort of industrial slash sin city look. I'd say visual wise, what were some of the things that kind of gave you inspiration to, when you make certain designs, you take little pieces here, but inevitably something always ends up coming through.
Sure. I think my inspiration in general, like I said before, is about materials. So I do look at a lot of industrial materials and think about how they can be reworn. But also, I'm very heavily influenced by music and underground dark music subcultures. So that definitely comes through in my experience of being part of those subcultures for a really long time, big part of my life. You know.
Also, you know, you've been hanging out in the more underground kind of scene when it comes to music and stuff. Probably I don't know since the '90s.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, from the designs you make, I can only infer certain things.
Yeah. Of course love like 70s and 80s fashion too,
Yeah,
especially 80s. Like I've always been a big fan of, you know, that avant-garde new wave type thing. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean definitely growing up in the 90s I think has an impact on my pieces and being involved in with industrial music and goth music and
Mm.
definitely it comes through, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could tell from your designs right away. I mean, I absolutely love that kind of stuff. And there's certain films that no matter what, you're always going to think of stuff like The Crow or Doom Generation, stuff like that. Preaching to the
Yeah, yeah.
perverted. And I don't know, it's really cool because your designs, you can just look at them and you can hear a sound, you can hear music, if that makes sense to you. At least it
It does.
at least when I
And
look
I
at your designs, that's what happens. I can see and hear the inspiration that went behind it, and I was just curious, exactly where those inspirations were and what they were. And coming from the '80s, I could totally see that. I mean, it was God, what an original decade.
I know. So it's just such a good decade. No, it makes me so happy to hear you say that because I really do, when I create each piece, think about, music a lot and like what type of music is inspiring the look and the piece and the fashion that goes along with the music. And um, my pieces actually, I take the titles are all from music. They're like song titles or references to songs or music or movies or something,
Mm-hmm.
that culture. So I mean, I definitely try to combine those two things together. And that's a huge part of my inspiration when I make these things. I was going to say, just add my hopes to keeping it authentic, thinking about, what I would really wear. Like, if I was, I don't know, just like kind of trying to embody that musical genre, you know.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's always looking for a unique piece to wear, and there's a million stores where you can buy the same piece that's been manufactured a million times, but your pieces, they're statements.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, like whether it's the cross belt or I mean your collars, your corsets, they're they not only look like they're well made, but I mean, just listening to you talk about it, I mean, I can tell the craftsmanship that goes into it.
Thank you. Yeah, I really do try to make things that are going to last, unlike fast fashion that falls apart in like a minute. I want to make things that people can keep with them for the rest of their lives, hopefully. And I put a lot of myself into them. They're like a piece of me every time I make something. So it's definitely important to me for them to be good quality.
Yeah, I totally dig that. I mean, it's custom, fast fashion. I really, really like that term. It's great. I saw you had
Yeah.
some models were repping your stuff fairly recently. It's pretty rad. You get all these shout outs in various publications.
Yeah. So what's really cool is that the models that you're referring to are really customers.
Even better.
And yeah, they're anybody that buys my stuff and like tags them, tags me, in the photo, I repost these photos. And so it's really been a unique experience because I've had so many people partake in that. And I feel like it's really beautiful because not only am I giving the customer a voice and a chance to be seen and, on my site or on my social media anyways, but I feel like it shows the pieces on a variety of people and not just professional models, So lots of different body types and different types of people, genders and races. And I think that's beautiful. And I hope that I continue to get photos. I'm lucky that people send me photos and stuff.
And that's really cool that, like you said, it's across an entire spectrum of kinds of people that are sending photos too.
Yeah. Yeah. I never I always try to encourage it, but I never, people don't have to obviously send me photos. Some people don't want to be, but if people want to be, represented on my site, I mean, whether it be, I'm in my stories or as a post, I post everywhere, posts of customers. So they're real people, which is great.
So that event that you're going to be repping your stuff at, you said that's going to be mid-March.
Oh no, April 1st.
Okay.
That's you talking about the event that I'm going to be vending at?
Yeah.
Yeah. So April 1st, I'm going to be vending at this vampires ball here in Chicago. It's thrown by Sanctum Chicago and Nocturna. Yeah, it's going to be so cool. It's in this like amazing space that I haven't actually been to yet, but it's like a old church that they turned into like a club art
Cool.
space. So it's 2 floors, and there's going to be music, DJ music, and then also bands. Yeah, and vendors and art vendors. So I'm really excited about that.
And if there's one thing that I think that one city that I think will be able to do a vampire ball well when it comes to the north, it's definitely Chicago. It's just has that vibe where it's not, old European vampire. It's like, slick modern, we're hip with the times vampire, but if there's a ball, we might dress up.
Yeah, there hasn't, well, I mean, maybe there has, but I haven't attended any kind of vampire ball here. So I'm excited to see what it's going to be like.
I've never been to
You
one
know?
either. I know that the costumes are just absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like that kind of vampire ball here, though. I feel, well, there might be, but I feel like it's going to be like you said, like a modern vampire ball. So not
Mm-hmm.
like one that you would go to in like some of the other states where people are wearing big gowns and stuff. I feel like it's going to be more like, you know,
Like the bad guys in Blade.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Sin City
yeah.
with fangs.
Yeah, I think something like that. I don't know. I mean, based on what I see, the style of people in Chicago, I think. Yeah.
That's cool
It will be
because
interesting.
well, it's cool because I'm sure that you'll get a nice mix. There'll be people who do the modern thing, people who do the traditional thing. It'll sort of look like Underworld.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, the more, I suppose, vampire influences come out when it comes to fashion, the more ideas people can get and combine with this, that, and the other. And then, you know, before we know it, there's going to be a whole new genre of goth that we weren't even expecting. And hopefully, you know, the stuff that you're selling is going to be right there at the vendors market, and they're going to be able to add it to whatever style they got going on, and someone's going to be like, yo, what's that badass piece?
Yeah, for sure. I hope. I'm gonna make I think a couple pieces that are gonna be exclusive, or at least you'll be able to get them there before on my website.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of cool. I have a couple ideas I'm working on right now. So
Is there any spoilers that you could give?
well, I'm okay, yeah, I can give some spoilers. I'm thinking like PVC crosses.
Hmm.
So that's all I'll say. And then I've been working on making a lot more collars and belts. So that'll be another spoiler for you. So
Kick ass. Well,
I'm thinking, something that would make sense.
something that would make, what was that?
Oh, sense with the event would be good.
Oh, okay. Something that would make sense. I gotcha. Sometimes
Yeah,
the internet can be a little crazy.
yeah, for sure.
So I guess this is the time where if you want to put any plugs out there, any websites, any addresses, now's the time.
Okay, well, I would say to check out my website, obviously, www.modebrutale.com. And then the Vampire Ball is going to be at Epiphany Art Center April 1st. It's going to be thrown by Sanctum Chicago and Nocturno. Definitely follow me on social media, especially Instagram, Mode Brutale on Instagram. That's where I post all these amazing customer photos mostly. And definitely you'll find updates from my next drop, which will probably be mid-March, March 18th. And I do like a product drop. I try to do a product drop every month so that I'm cycling in new products or items, I should say, more than products, things I make. And there should be some belts and corsets coming, corset belts and collars coming up soon. Some new designs for those.
Well, that's, oh man, that sounds killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on. I've had so many questions about how you get to where you get to with the art that you make.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I hope I answered all your questions. I don't know.
Oh yeah, it was great.
haven't-
And thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for having me so much.
Yeah, absolutely, Jody. And that's Mode Brutale, yes?
Yes.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, take care.
You too.
All right. That'll be all for today. Remember, peace, love throughout the world, and don't forget to rock and roll.